Hey gang, it's Deborah Atkinson with Flipping 50, and hey, this is first thing in the morning. So there are times when I actually take a shower and put on makeup before I talk to you, but there are times when it's just kind of bedhead and I'm on my way to a workout too, and that's kind of how things happen. So you're going to get the raw, unedited version today, but I'm answering a whole list of questions from our community and starting with what's the truth about belly fat? This question comes up again and again and again and again, and I really want to lay out the facts for you. Here's the deal. So, when we're in perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, a lot of women don't know that they're in perimenopause and that they're starting to gain belly fat and they want to get it off. If it's not a core abdominal muscle problem, doing core exercise that focuses on the abdominal muscles is not going to fix it. And many times when you're in menopause, going through that hormonal transition, it is not. It's not an abdominal muscle problem. It's not a lack of it. You may need some strength. You may benefit from it, but there's a reason why you want to do those things, and there's a how and an effective way to do it. I've got an upcoming podcast with a good friend of mine who is Dr. Martina Young. She is a doctor of physical therapy and works in Boulder, Colorado, which is how I met her. And super good friend, but super eloquent in hitting the nail on the head when it comes to what we need to do. We're going to talk about that right here. Just want to relay the message so you get it very, very clearly, and you get a little help before that podcast actually comes out so you can dive in better to core exercise that doesn't waste your time. So number one, what does the core do? Primarily, it stabilizes you while you move. And when you go through perimenopause and menopause, here's what you're seeing or feeling in terms of expanding waistline. You cannot target that with core exercise. Every once in a while, I will post a new core exercise, and someone will say, this is so good because that's really an area I need to work on. That tells me that the information was misinterpreted. So yes, core exercise is important so that you have a foundation that you can then do the things that allow you to get the results. So the things that will really allow you to burn more fat, spend more energy, which ultimately will reduce your size or optimize it. Maybe you don't need to lose weight or shrink anything except for reproportion and focus on that waistline because that's where it's ending up. But it is hormonal. So when you go through perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, we know that's hormonal. But so is that weight gain that you just had or you're experiencing. But it can also be bloating. So we've got to figure out, is it an abdominal muscle problem? And that is least often the culprit. Is it due to hormonal changes? And those hormonal changes I will come back to in just a second being the problem, or is it number three, behind door number three, is it that hormonal changes potentially in stress have caused issues with your gut? So what you're really experiencing is more bloating, and it gets worse throughout the day. You wake up in the morning and your stomach feels fairly flat, wow, oxymoron. You feel fairly flat, you feel pretty comfortable, but the more the day goes on, kind of with each thing you eat or drink, it gets worse and you feel more bloated by afternoon again. What is that? That is probably gut health related, not so much specifically hormones. And let's come back to those right now. So the ones we're really talking about, as you go through menopause, what happens? Your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone are coming down because you no longer need them for sustaining life. You're not in reproductive mode anymore. But as they do, they heighten your awareness and your susceptibility to the negative effects of stress. The cortisol hormone that's been there with you all the way through high school and your 20s and your 30s, that's the one actually knocking on the door saying, hey, you haven't been paying attention to me. You never really got the stress message and how to deal with stress because, why? Nobody ever set you down to have the stress talk, right? sometime in high school, maybe younger than that, somebody sat you down to have the sex talk. Maybe it was your parents, maybe it was administrators at school, but they told you, here's how to be safe. This is going to feel really good. It's going to be really tempting, but you don't want to do that. And you got to be safe because, pregnancy or change in your life right now is not something that you want. But nobody said to you, hey, you're going to go through big stressors. And, not unlike this final exam, the end of your semester, you're going to have that again in college. And you're going to go through stressors related to friendships and boyfriends or girlfriends and getting your first car, getting in an accident, worrying, all of those stressors you need a release for. You need a way to handle them. And nobody said, here's a good tool bag for dealing with stress. Here's how you reduce your stress so you can handle that a little bit better and you don't break out or you don't gain weight or you don't lie awake at night with sleep or you don't revert to negative stress habits. Nobody had that conversation with us then. Hopefully you and I are better at having those conversations with our offspring and or with kids that we influence depending on what your vocation or career may be. But we didn't then. So as we've gone through stressors, we've ignored them. Women particularly pushed through and we ignore our own needs, physical needs. We don't get as much sleep as we need. We often wait. We don't go to the bathroom because we do one more thing and one more thing. We drop off the kids and we gotta go and we don't have time to stop. And that's a stressor on your body. We don't eat when we need to. We eat when we shouldn't or really don't need to. That's both of them stressors. So there are a lot of different ways we're exposed to it. And there's a cumulative effect. Somebody can do this to you, one of your kids, somebody can tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, and it's not really that bad, right, when it's light, but when they're like, hey, it gets to be aggravating, right? When you first feel a little niggle in a joint, it's not a big deal, but when it starts to feel like, it hurts and it's pain, different thing. Stress is the same way. By now, in our late 40s, maybe our 50s, maybe a little later, you start to get the cumulative effects of stress. And when you go through perimenopause and menopause, it will tend to team up. That stress cortisol hormone teams up with insulin. And the two of them together, because you are also susceptible to blood sugar changes that go in a roller coaster with all of those other hormones, they deposit fat in the belly. That's what it's all about. Now, there's two kinds of belly fat. So there's visceral belly fat. And if you can imagine Santa Claus, all right, best example that we have, it's taut, right? It's kind of like, it's a drum, and it's tight around the middle. That visceral belly fat, women are less likely to have than men who tend to be that apple shape. But we tend to deposit more of our fat in our hips and lower body. And that begins to change a little bit at menopause. You kind of lose your hourglass figure, or the waistline that you did have isn't so defined anymore. So when you're depositing weight there, it's a combination of cortisol and insulin, not handling those blood sugars as well. And when we tend to snack and crave, and we like our wine and we like our stevia or sugar, and even stevia can elevate blood sugar. Definitely other artificial sweeteners can, just as much as sugar, sometimes more. And that will tend to change blood sugar. That changes insulin. So insulin comes in to stabilize things, but the problem is insulin stays. And when insulin is high, your body will tend to store fat, not to burn fat. Exactly the opposite of what most of us want. So learning to eat better, and in doing that is not, nobody said less. So you didn't hear less, right? So you might have internally heard that, but that's not really what I'm saying. Eating better, eating a little bit more protein, a little bit more fiber, a lot more vegetables and plant foods, so that you're full, you're satisfied. It's not about eating less in deprivation. It's about eating better when you sit down to a meal, so that between meals you're not hungry and your hormones begin to work a little bit better. That also decreases your stress level. Dieting is stress. exercise, even just the low to moderate exercise we all should be doing, is stress on our body. Our body likes to be on the couch, right? So in terms of putting those together, the appropriate kinds of stressors, we should be doing those. We should be getting a little stress every day. But the point is, we should kind of get some stress and then not have stress. And unfortunately, we all kind of have that shoulders up to our ears kind of tension instead of being able to exhale and relax it. We're holding stress all the time from different places in our life. Cumulative effect again. So we've kept doing things and ignoring ourselves that by the time you're in your 50s or your 60s, you can't ignore them anyway because you're getting these signs that you've been doing it. So, can you do something about it? Is that your question? Absolutely, you can. So, we need to decrease your stress level, figuring out what should be in your toolbox. You know, yoga, we talk about that a lot. Everybody talks about yoga, yoga, yoga. But hey, if yoga pants make you anxious, it's not going to do the trick for you. So, what is it? Maybe it's knitting for you. Maybe it is going for a walk outdoors. There's a lot of research about nature bathing and being out and in it, but decreasing your overall cortisol level. And that may require you to not exercise as much for a short period of time. It's called, at flipping50.com, restore before more. So if you've already dug yourself in a hole, you are already super stressed out, you're super tired, you're putting on belly fat, that doesn't mean exercise more. That it means actually let's exercise less, let's rest more, let's fill that hole up so that we have less stress, because then your body will release extra weight. It doesn't really want to carry it around either. So realize this, your body's on your side. It's just sending you louder messages by storing more fat and carrying it around because you're not listening to what you need to do. So is it about core exercise if you've got belly fat or a bigger waistline? No. So on another video, I'll talk a little bit more about how your gut health changes in relationship to your change in hormones and how that changes the things that you eat, that you want to eat, that you might want to test. And you can definitely do that from a lab, but your body never lies. So it's just as easy to remove those foods for a little while. And that doesn't mean starve yourself, because for every food you take out, you can put a different one in. You can have pizza, you can have pasta, you can have, all of the foods that you love, the creamy things that are made with dairy that you think you can't have if you're taking dairy out, you can make with something else. So almost anything you want, we can think of an adequate substitute. It's different. It's not necessarily harder, it's different, and we don't like change. So you'll have a little leap over that fence, but if you're really willing to figure out long term how you feel good, have your cake and eat it too, or have your pasta and eat it too, you can. You can absolutely feel good, look as good as you did when you were 30, if 30 was good to you, as long as you don't try to exercise or eat the way you did when you were 30. All right. Leave your questions down below, and I'll see you on the flip side. And if this was helpful, don't forget, subscribe so you don't miss the next video. And leave your questions so I know what videos would be the most helpful to you right here. I'll see you on the flip side. Have a great day.